Hey guys, welcome back. It's your Island Girl, and I'm checking out today a super quick history of the Netherlands. And I'm getting this one from Mr. History. I hope you guys will enjoy this one and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. All right, so come on in, wrap back, relax, and enjoy this video with your girl. To all those who are new here, welcome. To all my regulars, day one, city pie, city poos. Come on in, wrap back and enjoy. Here we go right about now.
This is Europe, and here's the Netherlands. Now let's go, shall we? Netherlands means lower lands, because the country is barely above, and in some cases below sea level. Thus it is geographically low, except of course for Amsterdam, which is famously rather high. Anyway, the Netherlands was first permanently populated during the last glacial period by hunters tracking reindeer in the frost. This curious-looking wooden slab is a canoe, the world's oldest known boating vessel, and was found in the Netherlands. Over time, the people began to farm and formed a portion of the funnel beaker culture that left its mark via chunky stone assemblages known as dolmens. Slipping through the centuries to the Iron Age, we find the southern Netherlands locked into the sprawling realm of the Celts. The Celts were very clever craftsmen, as we see from these artifacts unearthed in Os, perhaps made by the Wizard of Os. Over a long period of time, Germanic peoples began migrating into the land. Now the Germans called their country Deutschland, and this Deutsch was later applied by the English to the Germanic Netherlanders, who were called Dutch and still are. Anyway, no sooner was the Netherlands Germanified, or Dutchified, than our old friends the Romans stomped in and took over. The most warlike of Dutch tribes were the Batavi, and they started an uprising against the Romans in the 1st century, which alas did not succeed. The Romans, of course, were pretty warlike themselves. In the end, though, the Germanic peoples prevailed, and by the 5th century, Rome could no longer hold them back and crumbled under the pressure. Different Germans ruled in Netherlandish lands, namely the Franks and Frisians. The two fought viciously for many years until the Franks under Charlemagne were at last victorious. Meanwhile, Christianity was spreading through the land, and in the 800s, the Vikings invaded from the coast and caused the usual havoc, and prosperous trading towns arose along the rivers. But floods remained a problem, so the people around the year 1000 began to ramp up construction of a series of dikes or levees to better manage the water problem. This freed up more and more land, which, when cut off from salty seawater, became highly fertile. Nominally part of the German Holy Roman Empire, the Netherlands pretty much did its own thing for most of the Middle Ages, which of course meant nobles squabbling and warring with each other. As trade increased, towns turned into cities with handsome churches and cathedrals. Things were still a bit wild up in Frisia though, whose fierce inhabitants prided themselves on their freedom. And indeed they were a lot more free than most persons in those feudal times. Their great rivals were the Hollanders to the south. Now, no doubt you've heard people refer to the Netherlands as Holland, but this is not a technically correct term, as Holland, north and south, makes up only 2 of the nation's 12 provinces. But since so much famous Dutch stuff is located in the Holland regions, the name became synonymous with the whole country. Sort of like how, according to Hollywood, Paris is the only place in France. The prosperous 1200s gave way to the wretched 1300s, and its land-threatening wet weather, trade-disrupting wars, and population-depleting bubonic plague. Oh, and civil war. There was plenty of that too. Duke Philip the Good of Burgundy brought the Dutch lands under French rule, and then, in 1482, the Holy Roman Empire acquired them again, this time under the famous Habsburg dynasty. In Renaissance times, the Netherlands produced one of the era's finest scholars in Erasmus of Rotterdam, who, concerned at the state of the church, favored a more personal relationship with God over ritual and ceremony. Nonetheless, he did not want to go as far as Martin Luther and his Protestant Reformation. Though the two had respect for each other, they ended up enemies. Erasmus criticizing Protestant theology and the societal upheaval it was causing. The hot-tempered Luther responded by calling Erasmus a viper and the very mouth of Satan. In any case, the Dutch people favored Protestantism, which upset the Catholic king, who made Protestantism a capital offense. Many were...
Jeez, so that's a lot going through my head. I'm like, geez. So it's lower sea level, lower than... it's not called Holland. It is the Netherlands. And the reason why it's called Holland is because most of the stuff were within that region. And it's only 2 parts out of the different provinces that are there. From the Roman to the German to the Vikings. There's a lot of takeover. This is indeed a quick history, but it is so many warfare, so many things fighting between each other, the plague, Oh my word. You guys have a lot.
Executed, but the anger only increased. So Spain's Duke of Alba and his troops were sent in to crush them, and quite a lot of crushing ensued. Cold-hearted butchery, in fact. Thus began the 80 Years' War, decades of resistance and bloodshed. An early Dutch champion was William the Silent, who bravely chose to defy Habsburg Spain, which was, at the time, the world's superpower. The Dutch national anthem is in fact all about William, written from his perspective in the thick of those troublesome times. And such times invariably produce heroes. This painting depicts mother of four, Kinau, leading a group of women against the Spanish at the siege of Haarlem. Finally, in 1648, Spain recognized the independence of the Dutch Republic, but kept...
Damn, they've 80 years war. That's a long time to be fighting, man. That is crazy. And then the mother, listen, when you stop to look at history for a country, you'll be like, this country went through so much and still eventually came out on top. But your tummy twist and turn when you stop to listen about the history of a country and see that where they're coming from and what they've been through to where they are now. You cannot have nothing but pride as a nation knowing what your country has been through. It is something. That's a lot.
The Catholic southern Netherlands. Now, some countries in our world are fortunate enough to experience a golden age, a time of tremendous upsurge in wealth and culture and scientific thought. The 1600s, that was the Netherlands' gouden ale. The industrious Dutch set to work building, trading, establishing colonies, possessing the world's largest merchant fleet. Wealth poured in. Huygens discovered Titan, the moon of Saturn, and invented the pendulum clock to accurately measure time. Von Leeuwenhoek designed a microscope by which he became the first person to observe microbes, thus becoming the father of microbiology. And painting flourished, from the great genius Rembrandt to Ruysdael's magnificent landscapes to Vermeer's delicately haunting Girl with the Pearl Earring. Now, while the Dutch had done well in their maritime wars with England, with many a victory due to the brilliance of Admiral Michiel de Ruyter, things got pretty ugly when the French under Louis XIV invaded and very nearly conquered the country. The conflict ended by treaty, but the economic damage was devastating. The 1700s was a far less sunny century for the Netherlands.
Can you imagine booming in the 1600? Everything was going right. The riches, the trading, the building, the country, make it into what it is, flourishing, money passing through, the invention of clocks, the invention of microorganism. This is so many things, from art to so many things, and then here comes the 1700s and things go left. It's crazy how at one point you see a country just flourishing, and then war ensued, and then things go left from there, and that richness and everything that was there within the country, it just depletes because of, I've always said war, stupidness, because of greed. Jeez.
It was steadily outclassed in business, particularly by the British, whose empire was increasingly ruling the waves. In the early 1800s, the Netherlands briefly became part of Napoleon's French Empire, but was loosed from it in 1813. After the Congress of Vienna, the Dutch were reunited with their Catholic cousins in the south, and all were ruled by King William Frederick. But a lot had changed since the 1500s, and the southern Dutch or Flemish people had very little in common with their Protestant northern neighbors. The south was also home to the French Walloons, who had even less in common with the Netherlands. After a revolution boomed forth in 1830, the South proclaimed independence as Belgium. As for the Netherlands, it modernized rapidly and enjoyed a revival in trade and gleaned riches from its colonies in Indonesia. The Netherlands remained neutral in World War I and declared neutrality again at the outbreak of the Second World War. But that didn't stop Hitler from invading. The Germans conquered the country in under a week, bombing Rotterdam into rubbled ugliness and disposing of most of the Jewish population, the most famous victim being young Anne Frank, whose diary would bring her posthumous fame. The Netherlands was liberated in 1945 by Canadian, British, and Polish troops.
Oh, wow. I've read the book Anne Frank, and I'm like, Jesus.
and the Dutch began to rebuild and decolonize, making great progress under Prime Minister Willem Drees, and was a founding member of both NATO and the EU. And the Netherlands today, with a very high level of human development, one of the world's highest in fact, remains among the richest, happiest and most tolerant nations in the world. A land that has given us superbness in sport, amazingness in art, scientific splendidness, and literary and philosophical fabulousness. Not bad for a country that began as a waterlogged swamp. So that's it for the Netherlands, and that's all from me for now. Bye-bye!
That was beautifully put. It's a lot of information crammed into that, but it was. Would you just listen to it? Because when he said at the end of the day, when he showed those pictures of the end of what the Netherlands look like now, and then what they have dominated in sports, art, literature. You understand? The industrial, there's so many things that you guys flourish in, and one of the happiest, richest and happiest nation. You can't help but smile when you think about it. You know, you cannot help but smile and say, listen, for what it has been through to where it is now, you gotta be, like I said, you gotta be proud, you gotta be prideful of your nation, from where it's coming from to where it is now. I can't wait to visit. I would like to have the experience when I get there. The food, the culture. You understand me? It seems amazing. Not to mention those lilies. Can you imagine, like he said, from a swampy area to like it's a no man's land to where it is now. It's an island girl, and I'm running out of here. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. Be good, be kind, be safe out there. Love you guys, and I'll definitely catch you guys in another video. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button on this one, and let me know what you'd like me to check out next. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Please send your request my way. Write it in the comment section. I'll definitely get it done. Love you guys. Bye.